Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host for the Leaders of Heart podcast. Today, I have an absolute treat, an amazing guest, my good friend John Mullen from the UK, from Liverpool. I We go back for a few years. We met through a an entrepreneurship group that was about doing business in China, and then we both moved to China, but in different cities, and we kept in touch. And finally, last year, we met in Hong Kong. When I was living there, he was visiting. John has absolutely an amazing story, personal, victory over Mother Nature and all that. Is gonna talk about that. And as you will see throughout this call, throughout this podcast, John is an absolute leader with a heart, and that's why I have the honor of having him here today with us. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you today?
Hi, Payman. Thanks for having me on and for your very kind words. And, well, somewhat bittersweet today because on the one hand, very, very delighted with the Liverpool results. But on the other hand,
I forgot to mention that John.
Christmas just got cancelled. So,
Yeah, I forgot to mention that John is a die-hard Liverpool fan, red season ticket holder. And I'm a big football fan as well. So we talk a lot about football. AC Milan, we go. You know, we had the biggest heartbreaking moment of my life as a Milan fan against Liverpool, and also probably for him one of his most amazing, memorable wins, and that night as well,
oh,
unforgettable.
yes.
I could. That's one of the things that cannot be explained. How can you lose after being up 3-0 at halftime? But that's for another podcast.
Yeah.
Another podcast just on that. So
Yeah, especially because, as me and my friends say, when you look at, and as I've said to you, when you look at the Liverpool team that we had at the time versus AC Milan, I mean, on paper, there's no contest. AC Milan should win that every time. But that's why we love football, because you never know what can happen.
yeah, we had the best team in the world, man by man, probably the best 11 at every spot. We played perfect for maybe 80 minutes, just for 10 minutes, complete blackout. And sometimes it's just not meant to be. The gods of football go against you, and kudos for Liverpool for pulling it off. Because honestly, it takes a special breed of not just football players but human being to pull that off at halftime, being down 3-0, and such a big occasion against such an amazing, at the time, the best team in the world. So, as much as it hurts me, you know, hats off. But you know what's funny? And we met again a couple of years after, and and that's what's funny and amazing about football. In 2005, we were the better team. We lost. In 2007, I have no problem admitting it. Liverpool played the better team. You guys deserve it more, but we won.
Yeah.
I would gladly swap it. Well, maybe not gladly, but if I could, I would. I would. I don't know. That's a different story.
Yeah.
But, it's funny. It's funny. So we can talk about football another time. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, John, tell us about your story. For people that don't know you, who's John?
Okay, so I suppose the best place to start this would be about 6.5 years ago. I was just finishing up at university in the UK, and I was about to move to China because, of course, I was coming up to graduation. And when you're coming up to that period of your life, your mind's spinning at a million miles an hour in terms of all the different directions that you can go. Do I go and do a master's degree? Do I go and get a job? Do I do some sort of training program? And until not long before graduation, the idea of moving to China had never even entered my head. It was something that wasn't on my radar at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone came to our university and gave a talk about teaching in China. And then afterwards I thought, when I graduate, I'll be in a position where I don't have a career yet. I don't have a family yet. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have, and my health was good, which is obviously a key point at that time, which we'll talk about later. But there was nothing tying me down to the UK. And I thought, this is a great opportunity to have an experience where I can really push myself out of my comfort zone. And I should do it while I still can, because you never know what life has around the corner. So I moved to Shanghai in the summer of 2014 as a teacher. While the experience of being a teacher was very fun and very enjoyable in its own right, it just wasn't going to satisfy me in the long term, ultimately. And was starting to see that, don't get me wrong, like some people love teaching abroad, and that's great. I certainly enjoyed it very much, but it can definitely get to a point where if you don't watch out, you can become almost trapped in it forever, because that's the only job you can do. And I was looking for exit opportunities, which was when I started to look at entrepreneurship, and that's when I stumbled upon EC, which of course we're both a part of.
What is EC for people that don't know?
Oh yeah, Enter China. It's a community of entrepreneurs based in China and elsewhere around the world, mainly doing various kinds of manufacturing projects and things of that nature. Basically, having a physical products business, doing things like Kickstarter campaigns, Indiegogo campaigns, building up a brand from scratch, and
It's launching products for Amazon.
or Amazon FBA was certainly another route that a lot of people went down. I think it's changed somewhat now to EC Accelerate, where it's more of a coaching program, from my understanding. So I joined that around, I think it was early 2015, and I was thinking about all the different avenues that I could go down. Now, in Shanghai, there is obviously a large degree of manufacturing, like there is pretty much all over China, but there wasn't that much manufacturing directed towards consumer products.
Shanghai, right? Or Guangzhou?
Sorry?
Where did you first move? Was it Shanghai or Guangzhou?
Shanghai. Yeah, it was Shanghai at first. Yeah, I lived there for about a year.
What do you think of Shanghai as a city to live?
It's a great city. It's without question the mainland's most advanced, most developed city. The infrastructure is excellent. There's a wide array of fantastic places to eat, and you'll find every nationality, every cuisine there. And in many ways, it wouldn't look that out of place in Europe in many ways, especially when you go to somewhere like the French concession in Shanghai. It can be difficult to remember in some ways that you are, in fact, in China.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Well, living in China, what would you say was how was it for you living in China, coming from the UK to a place that's completely, like almost like a different planet altogether? What were your first reactions, your first impressions?
Everything was completely chaotic, but in a somewhat organized way, I suppose is the best way I can describe it. There's this overall sense of madness, I suppose is the best way I can put it, but no one's particularly concerned about it, because that's just how life is on a day-to-day basis. And I don't know how it was for you, but for me, every day in China felt like an adventure in its own right. Even just something as trivial as going to the store to buy some water or something like that.
I still remember the first night we arrived. I was there and I went to Guangzhou, working there first as a football coach. The first night I arrived with a friend of mine, colleague. We went to a restaurant. Obviously, none of us speak any English at the time. We didn't even we just arrived from the flight, whatever. Just arrived, dropped the bags at the hotel. Just go to grab something. At the time, we didn't even have a SIM card yet, so I went to the first restaurant. Of course, they don't have any English menu.
Oh yeah,
I want to check in. Of course, they don't speak in English. I was doing like pok, 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 pok. I had to do like this. And my friend wanted crab, so he just grabbed. It was almost.
Did you go like this or something?
No, it was almost like an adventure, just trying to get. Hey, do you have a pen? Just to get a pen.
Yeah.
So it was like, and the waiter was looking. Come on. So finally, we managed to get a pen on a piece of napkin. He just drew a crab. You had to draw it, and then there were a couple of other patrons sitting at other tables. So I swear to God, I just got up, looked at their plate, and I just pointed. How else are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
There's a complete lack. I mean, there's no way to communicate. So it was absolutely, oh my God, so many. It was fun. So before going to China, did you know any person in Shanghai, any friends, or you just went completely blank?
one th completely by chance, again, about a year before I was due to go, I met a guy at my university. I didn't really know him that well, but we started to talk more, and his girlfriend at the time was Shanghainese, and he mentioned that he was going there to study Chinese and be with her, and he was going pretty much the same time that I was going. So just by pure coincidence, there was that connection, which really came completely out of nowhere and was very unexpected.
Was he part of the EC?
No, he wasn't.
Were there any ECers at the time in Shanghai?
There was one who did. He toed and froed between various cities in China. I think he's from New Zealand, and he spent most of his time in New Zealand, but he would come to China from time to time, and he did spend some time in Shanghai. So I met him in about May of 2015 for the first time, and then again in Shenzhen later that year.
So what was it? How was it like living and working in China versus in the UK?
At first, it was a very big adjustment. The main thing that I really didn't like, and this is something that seems to be universal with most foreigners that have lived and worked in China, is how big changes are announced at work completely last minute. So one thing.
Not at all. Sometimes
Sorry?
not even at all. You know, you just
Yeah. Like one of the things that we had dropped on us at the time was, you know how when there's things like the October Festival, they have a week off, but because people have too many days off, they have those makeup days on Saturdays and Sundays, and then it'd be getting to Friday, I'm like, oh great, you know, it's a weekend stuff, and like you have to come in tomorrow. It's like, well, what? Why? It's like, it's makeup day. It's like, makeup for what? It's like, for the holiday. I was like, oh Jesus. But and yeah, just how because the first place I was at, we were like a special education center in the center of Shanghai. So we weren't based at a school. The school would come to us for a week, and sometimes they would drop things on us, like on the Thursday. Oh yeah, you need to train the kids and get them to do a short play on the Friday. And again, organizing something like that completely last minute is definitely not easy by any stretch of the imagination. So I suppose the like lack of perhaps foresightedness, you could call it, was the main thing that I had a lot of problems getting used to.
I remember a lot of times for me, I would show up to work, get changed, bring my equipment on the football pitch. I wait.
Sorry, my dad just came in.
Okay.
Dad.
So yeah, as I was just saying, for me, I would just show up to work as a football coach, change with my coaching attire, bring my equipment on the pitch. I wait 5, 10, 20 minutes. I see no students. I message my contact at the school, the person supposed to help.
Y-ban. Was it the Y-ban?
No, actually the person, one of the vice principal, because he happened to speak good English.
Oh, okay.
So and of course I didn't speak any Chinese. No one speaks English, and I didn't have, most time I wouldn't have well, during classes I would have a translator, but sometimes I would not. So I would just message the vice principal because he happens to speak English. So what's going on? Where are the kids? Oh, today they have exams, or they have extracurricular activities. Okay, that's awesome, but why didn't you guys tell me? Oh, we need to tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, I just like sometimes somebody, maybe the principal or someone higher up on the food chain, just wakes up and has an epiphany. Oh, today we're gonna do that, without notifying anyone else. Only notifying maybe one person, but don't even bother notifying anyone else. That was the most frustrating. At the end, I almost got into a big argument with the principal. I'm not gonna get too graphic, but I wanted to do almost to headbutt him because I was getting, I couldn't take it anymore. I was just showing up to work, and he would not even tell me. They wouldn't even. Don't get me wrong. It's not that nothing personal, but just that's how it goes in China. It's just that, just like you said, it's a controlled chaos.
Yeah. I mean, something similar happened to me once when this was when I was in Guangzhou and I was working part-time at university there, and I go into the classroom and there are no students. So I called the person that was in charge of foreign teachers and said, I've just come to class, but there are no students here. It's like, oh yeah, when freshmen come to the university, they do compulsory military drills for 3 weeks before they start class. And then I looked out onto the field, and sure enough, there was all these students in uniforms just marching down all day, every day for 3 weeks. And again, no one told me.
Or you could ask them, so when does the semester end? When does the holidays start? Oh, we don't know yet. What do you mean you
Yeah,
don't know yet?
yeah, exactly.
Every country in Africa, at the beginning of the semester, they give you the schedule. When is your exam? When is your
Yep.
midterms? When is your end of the semester? When the next one starts? But in China, nobody knows.
Yep.
Go
Yep.
figure.
That's basically, and it's a universal experience, I
Oh, yeah.
find.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But anyways, so when you were in China, did you get involved in any business?
Yeah, I mean, at first, I was looking at an exit strategy out of teaching because, as I say, it's a fantastic way to break into China. There's absolutely no doubt about that, because it gives you a permanent base there. It gives you an income. I don't know what it's like now, but when I was doing it, jobs were everywhere, and it was pretty straightforward. Even if you didn't have a degree, I knew loads of people that were still able to get jobs, probably not legally.
From what I heard, I'm still in touch with people I know in China, and I see all the time, these ads for jobs. Apparently now, because most foreigners have left China, they're really desperate to get foreigners, and now they doubled the salaries. Now, before salaries started 15,000 RMB a month. Now they start at 20, 25. If
Yeah.
you masters in Beijing, they pay even 45,000 a month, which is like 9,000 Canadian dollars, maybe 8,000 US dollars. That's not too shabby for 20 hour a week, you know?
No, no, not all, but it's ultimately supply and demand. I mean, the demand for English teachers is always extremely high in China, but in this particular situation, of course, the supply is very low, so that
Trent's
makes
telling me
sense.
that right now, because a lot of the foreigners have left, even factories are completely decimated, very desperate. He told me about one Russian guy who still stayed in China, and he said this guy was ingenious because he went to the factory, to a couple of factories, and said, listen, let me help you sell you products. At first, they gave him 100 units. If you can sell that, come back to us. So he sold it, and then after that, say, hey guys, I was able to sell you products, give you more products. And basically, he was able to get almost an entire container on consignment. It would only pay them back after he was able to sell them. I mean, the amount of opportunity right now in China, especially if you're courageous enough to go in China, and if you're able to get into China right now, which is not easy for foreigners, especially
No.
from Canada, US, UK, Australia, or whatever. It's crazy. So anyway, so he was able to build a big business just by doing that. So, and even that made me consider, hey, how am I going getting a gig paying getting paid like 35,000 part time, and then doing this on the side? That would be pretty sweet. Plus, honestly, I had an amazing time in China. I love living in China. You know,
Yeah.
whether it was in Hangzhou, whether it was in Shenzhen, traveling around. There's a lot of other parts of China I didn't get to that I would love to go. I would want to spend more time in Shanghai. I didn't go to Beijing. I want to go to the south. I want to go to Chengdu and all those places, and the north. It's too much. It's too much to explore. I would love to go back.
Yeah, it's exactly the same for me. I went to pretty much every major city at least once and lived in 2 of them. But yeah, there's still, I barely scratched the surface in terms of place to go. And I think in one lifetime, it would be impossible
Oh no.
to go to all the amazing places that there are in China,
Mhm. So when
purely
you
from a
said
tourism perspective.
being inside of the Enter China mastermind group with
Yeah.
everyone, most people working towards either manufacturing a product for a Kickstarter campaign or
Yeah.
launching their own Amazon FBA product. Did you get involved in any of that yourself?
I did think about it briefly at the time, but what I turned my attention to at the time was sourcing, was helping people to source products. And at the time, I was very into MMA, Brazilian
Oh,
Jiu-Jitsu,
wow.
those kind of sports.
Mhm.
And then, suddenly I had an epiphany one morning. It's like, let's try sourcing MMA products. So I spoke to some gym owners and relatively high people that do it competitively back in the UK, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and the like. Where do you get your equipment from? Because one of my initial ideas was for gyms to be able to get their own custom made, say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gis or boxing gloves and things like that. Because most gyms tend to have, unless it's a big chain, because there are a few big chains which are pretty much all over the world, don't have their own like branding or logos. So seeing if there was a demand for that, and there was, but a lot of them were scared about getting their stuff manufactured. Now, China was not the major hub for that. It was mainly Pakistan.
Oh, wow.
Is mainly where most of that stuff was produced, and still is, as far as I understand. But there were suppliers in China that did it, and it wasn't really feasible, from what I remember, to go to Pakistan on a long-term basis.
Yeah.
So
how were the products? Were you able to find some reliable suppliers and reliable products for the MMA niche?
Yeah, but what I realized though is I had to move, because they weren't in and around Shanghai. They were in Dongguan, which, as you probably know, is near. It's in between Guangzhou and Shenzhen.
Yes.
Pretty much exactly between them.
Yeah, Guangdong is where most, I would say, a big chunk of the factories are located in China, in the south. Yeah.
Yeah, especially consumer products, and especially in Shenzhen, things like electronics and things like that.
The world. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So then how far were you able to take that idea?
Initially I went down to Guangzhou for about a week before my visa was due to expire. Then I found another job in Guangzhou, but my visa was expiring. So I went back to the UK and then just started the process over again. And I moved to Guangzhou
You cannot do it from Hong Kong?
I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
So basically my visa was about to expire. So they had to, and there wasn't time, because there's a procedure where you can get your work visa transferred to another employer in China.
Yeah.
But I didn't have enough time to do that. So I went back to the UK and basically started over again. But they didn't get the documents in time for me to get it in the UK. So I had to go to Hong Kong to get my work visa. Then I went into Guangzhou. This would have been about September 2015. But I had found a good supplier that supplied to some quite big brands in the MMA niche in Dongguan. And he was, super receptive to working with me. So I was thinking, I've got a good supplier here for these. It was the jiu-jitsu gis in the main that he did. So that's a big part of the equation solved. And then it was a case of finding people that were interested in that. And around that time, EC did a meeting in Guangzhou where I met a lot more people. That's where I met Rico, for example, who I think we both know.
Yeah. When did you move to China initially?
August 2014.
I moved in September 2015. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. So, and then when you made the move to Guangzhou,
yeah,
then you had some issues regarding your health. Tell us what happened there.
Yeah, sure. So again, life does some crazy things that you can't possibly predict. So at this stage, I'd formed a mastermind group where we would meet up every weekend with other EC people to discuss the various projects we were doing and how we could advance them, and bumping ideas off of each other. So at that stage, I had a website designed and published, just a basic landing page at that time, to capture emails in the main. But what I did do is I reached out to one of the brands that was getting their gear manufactured at the supplier that I had visited. And I just sent an email just explaining who I was and what my aims were. And I really wasn't expecting a reply from him. And a lot of people said, don't be surprised if you don't get a response from them. But then I woke up the next morning, because of course there's like 12-hour time difference between here and the US, depending on what part. And I had a very, very long and detailed reply from him saying, oh, I wish there was someone like you around back when I was starting out. He said, in terms of those products, I'm happy, but I produce other consumables. So there's this one product that I did have a fantastic supplier for in Japan, but I think they either stopped making it or they'd gone out of business, and I haven't found anyone else in China that can make it. So maybe this is something we can work on. So he sent me the sample, and I had the sample, and then I had some suppliers that I was going to visit, and then wham.
Damn.
So
did you have any, before you get into that, did you get any warnings in the pre-existing condition that something is serious is coming health-wise, or just all of a sudden?
I'll describe it to you how I remember it. So on the 9th of March 2016 was a day off for me. I went out and had lunch, and just like exploring the city, going about and everything. And then I went back home, went to bed because I was teaching the next 2 days. And on the Thursday, I felt very uncomfortable, is the best way I can put it. Like, I felt very run down, very under the weather. Still did my classes, but I did not feel right at all. And then later that night, I, was vomiting a lot, had really bad, all the usual symptoms when you get sick. So I called in sick the next day because our class is in the morning. And I felt lousy, but then my legs felt a bit numb, which was unusual.
Wow.
And I'd never felt anything like that before. And at first, I just dismissed it as nothing to worry about. It's like, well, you're sick. You didn't eat anything yesterday. It's just because you feel weak.
Otherwise you
That's
were young, you were healthy, no other concerns, right?
No, none whatsoever. None whatsoever. So that happened. And then that sensation each day got worse. Now, a few people at the time, like foreign friends mainly, and people like that, were suggesting this, because it was, as I say, the numbness and the weakness in my legs was getting worse each day. And people suggesting, yeah, maybe you should go to the hospital then or see a doctor. But I'm a man, so I was stupid in ignoring it, as we do with health problems. And in fact, I remember it was Wednesday, the 16th of March. Guangzhou, Evergrande were playing in the Asian Champions League, and I had a season ticket that I just bought, so I was going to go. Now, at this point, I can barely walk. I can't remember how I did it, but I managed to get on the subway to the stadium. Then I had to climb up some stairs, and then when I tried to climb up the stairs, my legs completely gave out, and these like two security guards carried me to the main concourse. And then I thought, okay, then finally, if you like, I came to my sense that, okay, this is very serious. You need help right now. So one of my students who that I was also friends with was in the stadium. So I called him and was like, I'm kind of stuck here. Can you give me a hand? So he helped me get a taxi, and then I went back to my apartment and barely made it back. Was pretty much crawling back once I got to the outside of the building, and stumbled into bed, literally. And when I woke up the next morning, I was about 80-90% paralyzed from the waist down. So I called my boss and said, okay, I'm very sick. I need to go to hospital.
Wow. When things like that happen, you're completely unprepared. What was your first reaction? How did you feel when you realized, it dawned on you, hey, this is serious. I'm almost, as you said, 80-90% paralyzed. What went into your mind?
It's hard to remember exactly what I was thinking at the time. I was scared, of course, but my boss and everyone that I was working with assured me, don't worry, you've got insurance, like they'll be able to take care of it. We're going to take you to the best hospital in the city because it obviously sounded like a neurological issue or spinal issue. So they took me to the hospital with the best reputation for that. So we went there, and I was in triage for probably felt like a day. I think it was sometime in the night I got moved to a spinal ward. And initially I had to put down a deposit of money for the healthcare, but my boss said, don't worry about it. Like, it'll all get reimbursed later. And if you run out of money, then we'll put money down because it'll get reimbursed later by the policy. So, it's nothing to worry about. Thankfully, the doctors that I dealt with, most of them spoke English very well, because a lot of them had done placements abroad and had done training in places like the US, Australia, Canada, the UK. And even some of the nurses had as well, from memory. So communication wasn't that big a barrier, thankfully, which in China is very difficult at the best of times. But when you're sick, that of course is exponentially more difficult. I don't know if you've ever been to a hospital or seen a doctor in China before, but all doctors in the West, my impression is they give you the very, very worst scenario that they can. And here it was pretty much, if we don't treat you, you're gonna die, was the gist of what they said at the time.
Oh, wow.
At this point, I'm very scared, obviously.
So what did the doctors, did they know what were your condition, or they're just like you, completely stunned?
They didn't know what it is. They said there was a wide variety of conditions it could be, because the symptoms that I had could have been many conditions. They, trying to remember what they did now. They did an MRI of my spine, I think, which showed inflammation in the spinal cord. So basically it was saying that this inflammation is blocking the signal in your spinal cord. So that's why you can't feel your legs or move them, was what they were saying.
And that's something you never in your life before felt anything even remotely close to that?
Nope.
No.
Nope. And then they said, we need to give you intravenous steroids. That's the only way we're going to be able to stop this, because it got to the point where I was starting to lose feeling in my upper body as well. Like my left arm went very numb and weak at one point as well. So they rushed me in for treatment. But then, of course, the next fun thing happens, which is this drug is very expensive. It was about, well, expensive for China terms. By Western standards, it would have been fairly cheap, I suppose. It was 12,000 RMB a day for this drug, and it was 3 days worth. And then my boss said to me, oh, by the way, John, that insurance we told you had, it doesn't really cover anything.
That's when the nightmare starts, eh?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Because you said 12,000 RMB a day. That's still a sizable chunk. It's almost 2,000 US dollars, almost.
Yeah, it would be about that, I guess. I mean, it's still a lot cheaper than if it was in the US.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I've never had any treatment there, obviously, but you hear enough stories about how much medical care costs there, and the doctors say, well, there's not enough money in your account, so we're not giving it to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what did you next? Were they able to finally diagnose it correctly and find out what's that, and most importantly, what is causing it?
No, at that stage, no. But they said that this drug will halt the inflammation, and as it had to be given via a drip. And so, but obviously they paused treating me because I'd run out of money, and obviously at this point I am beyond terrified now. But I also remember thinking at that time that as best you can, you have to stay calm.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you totally lose yourself now, things are going to get so much worse.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got to retain a degree of composure here, otherwise things are going to get much worse very, very, very quickly. Was the main thing I remember thinking at that time. Now, because the impression that I had from my boss at the time was that this was in essence their fault because they hadn't bought real insurance. They told me that they had a meeting and they agreed that they would provide money for the treatment on the condition, of course, that I paid it back, because it was a loan. even though it was their fault for not insuring me and telling me that I had insurance. And it was even stated in the contract that was to have full health insurance. Now, obviously, I didn't have a choice. So I said yes, even though, of course, felt that this was completely their fault.
So you
For
got in touch with your family back home. I'm sure they must have been freaking out, eh?
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, my parents were very scared, obviously, because I was so far away. I was very sick, and also because they talked to some companies that do medical evacuation,
Mhm.
and I think the lowest quote they had was about £100,000 to fly me
Oh,
back from
wow.
China in a medical plane. So if something like that was needed, there was no way it could be done short of selling the house. So they
Did
felt scared, but also helpless as well.
it occur to you to just, F it, I'm just gonna buy a plane ticket back to the UK and get treated there?
I'll come to that. I'll come to that bit. Come to that bit in a second. So the university provides a loan for my treatment, and I have the treatment, and the treatment worked very well, thankfully. I was still in effect paralyzed from the waist down, but I could at least move my legs, and my upper body had fully recovered. And it was my friends in EC at the time were saying, "Yeah, you have got to get back to the UK. You are in a very, very, very bad way." And I said to my parents, "Yeah, I need to get home ASAP." And I spoke to the embassy at the time. One of the things that they said is you'll need a letter from the doctor which says you're fit to fly. So I was quite concerned about this because I suppose by any reasonable definition, I definitely wasn't fit to fly at all. But I asked the doctor, I explained, I'm very sick. I don't have money to continue this treatment. I need to go back to the UK to continue it. But one of the things I'll need is a letter that says I'm fit to fly. Can you do that? And he said, yeah, no problem. We can do that for you. And later that day, I got the letter. Now, of course, my employer at the time, the university, was watching me like a hawk. They
Sure.
had someone there, not 24/7, but basically every, from the morning to night, there was someone there, for the purposes, I guess, of keeping me company. But I know for a fact they were also like reporting back on things I was saying and things I was doing. And I think they got word from one of the doctors that I was planning to discharge myself
Mm.
the next day. And I'd coordinated help with my friends in EC at the time to get to their place that they were staying in central Guangzhou and then get back to the UK. Of course, my boss at the time got word of this, and then situations like, well, there's all this money that you owe us and you're leaving. And, that's, we can't let that happen, because you owe us all this money. So we had a very intense argument for about probably 4 hours in the hospital. And just as well, because I was so scared,
Wow.
I'd barely slept for about a week.
Wow.
And also I'd gone into like pure survival mode. So you're not thinking rationally anyway, I guess. But what was quite funny is she'd constructed this loan agreement, um, but it was written entirely in very complicated English. It had like lots of English legal jargon in there. It wasn't written in
I was in
Chinese.
English. I would expect to be in Chinese.
Yeah, I was half expecting it too, but no. I mean, what it obviously was a template copied from the web
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And they had my passport at the time, and my thinking was, if I don't do this, you're going to stop me from leaving China, and that is without question the most important thing right now. But you also seem to think that you'll get the money back, or you have a guarantee of getting the money back if I sign this piece of paper. So obviously I fought for about 4 hours not to sign it, but
Sure.
weighing up the entire situation, I thought this will give me a window to get out of here, and I absolutely have to get out of here. So I got my passport back once it was signed. And then I made my way to, well, one of my friends came to pick me up from the hospital. We got a taxi back to his apartment, except I didn't have a wheelchair and there was no way I could walk at that time at all. So actually, when we arrived at his apartment block, we had to ask the taxi driver to go back so we could buy a wheelchair.
Oh wow,
Yes,
crazy.
yeah, it really was. I mean, of course, I paid him back later once. You know, that
Sure.
was also because it didn't cost much at all for that. And then it was based out in their apartment. And then my friends went to the university to get my stuff from my apartment there. Obviously, they said the most important thing was
Yeah,
my passport. And
yeah,
thankfully, they had safe passage through there. They were directed to my apartment. There were only two things they weren't allowed to take, which was the key to my apartment, which obviously I didn't need anymore, and my foreign work permit, which again I didn't need
okay.
anymore.
Wow, okay, yeah.
But other than that, I managed to get all my things. And this was when I guess I was struck by airline pricing, because I found a flight from Hong Kong, from Guangzhou to Manchester via Hong Kong, and that flight cost about 4,500 RMB,
Okay, not too
which
bad.
wasn't bad. No, not too bad at all.
Yeah.
But flying direct from Hong Kong was over double the price. So if you just skipped the Guangzhou Hong Kong part and flew just direct from Hong Kong to Manchester, it was almost
You
double the
have to
price.
change
Wow, this is
flights, or do you have to change planes, or?
yeah.
And of course, there would be someone, the staff would help you with a wheelchair and just transfer you from one plane to another.
Yes. So I had a good friend of mine who was a student, but we became friends throughout the course of the year. He picked me up in an Uber, and we went to the airport together with the fit to fly letter. We went to check in, and then of course, because I was in a wheelchair, and I was also catheterized at the time, but I'd hidden the bag under my clothing, so it wasn't visible as such. You know, asked questions about my condition, and and they would get quite anxious about letting me on. But thankfully, I had that letter from the hospital, which was stamped with all the seals and everything. And once they read that, you know, they're like, okay, yeah, that's fine, you can go through.
Wow.
So then they had someone take me all through the airport and then onto the plane. Now, one of the questions that they did ask at check-in is, can you actually get on the plane? Because obviously you can't get in on a wheelchair because there isn't the room. And I just said yes, because of course in that situation I was going to say it. I hadn't thought it through at all at that time. And normally I'm someone that tends to spend quite a lot of time before making a decision and think about everything very carefully. In this case, just yes, I can do it. But then I thought, my upper body is fine at this stage, and planes are very compact. So my thinking was, once I got to the door of the plane, if I stood up and just grabbed something, I would
Yeah,
be okay.
the railings. Yeah.
So that's what I did. In fact, I was even allowed on the plane before business class or first class. It was quite cool, actually. It felt very exclusive in a sense.
You were upgraded?
No, I wasn't upgraded, but I was allowed on the plane before anyone else was.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long did that entire ordeal last, from the moment that you got this disease, and the moment you were able to leave China?
I started getting sick on the 10th of March. I made it back. So I got started on the 10th of March. I was hospitalized in China on the 17th of March, and I made it back to the UK on the 28th of March, 2016.
So all this time, did you have a friend or a girlfriend or someone to help you with, helping you to get some food and other things, and
At what stage?
while you were sick?
In the hospital or
Oh,
before?
not all, there were staff, yeah, but so you were not on your own at any time, at the apartment or anything. So okay, so okay.
From what I remember, I think I just ordered
Okay.
delivery,
Okay.
delivery food,
Okay, that's,
before I was in the hospital itself.
and then you flew to Manchester, and then your parents picked you up in Manchester, correct?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And because I hadn't showered for about 2 weeks, because they don't have proper, washing facilities in a generic Chinese hospital ward, I hadn't, I say, showered for about 2 weeks at that point.
Oh,
I
wow.
felt absolutely disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, because my parents were upset, something's very wrong with you. We need to get you to the hospital ASAP. And I said, I'm having a shower first, because I just feel so. I don't know if you've ever experienced something like that before, but you literally feel so dirty that nothing else
Oh, yeah.
matters. You just want to feel hot water over you.
Oh,
And
no, that's too much. Yeah, no. Wow.
yeah.
And then in the UK, once you went to the hospital, were they able to pinpoint exactly what is happening to you, or they were also?
Initially, I was sent to a general hospital near where I live, and in essence, they were just holding me there until I could go to a more specialist hospital. So a neurologist came to see me on what would have been April 1st, 2016. And he did some initial neurological examinations, and he determined, yes, you need to be transferred to our hospital. So the following week, April the 8th, I was. And they still had the same philosophy as the Chinese did, in the sense that they still said that this could be many, many things. And we're not going to try and test for what it is, but rule out what it isn't, was very much the approach that they went for. Oh, but one thing I would add here, though, is before I left the hospital, I did think it would be helpful if the UK doctors had knowledge of what treatment I'd had in China. So I explained, can I take your email address or contact details? So if they want to contact you, is it, yeah, that's fine. And then I believe they did manage to get in touch with him, and he handed over everything in English, which they said was very helpful. And they did actually say, up until the point you were discharged, they did pretty much everything that we would have done in terms of treatment, which is obviously reassuring to hear, because there's all kinds of horror stories with medical treatments in China. I'm sure you know a ton of those.
Possibly surprised in that the hospital staff in China were, helpful and working to help you with communicate with the
Yeah.
doctors in the UK, because that sometimes can be an issue all by itself.
Oh yeah, yeah, and he didn't even have to respond to their email, but he did, to his credit. So that helped them enormously. So they did a variety of tests on me, which I won't go into. But one of the things that they did do, which they didn't get the chance to do in China, was a brain MRI. So they did the brain MRI, and then when I came back, they said that there's inflammation in your brain. And obviously, when you hear something like that, you're initially like quite scared, because anything to do with the brain like that sounds quite serious. They said the imaging that they had was identical to an MS patient.
A what patient?
Multiple sclerosis patient.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, often abbreviated to MS. Okay. Yeah. They said that's exactly what it looks like to us. But they did also say that this might be a one-off attack, because they said that does happen, but they in essence said that this is likely to happen again in some form. So I was in hospital in the UK from the 28th of March 2016 to May the 13th in several different hospitals, initially finding out what was wrong, which was the probable MS. So once they'd done that in the neurological hospital, I'd recovered enough that with a lot of support, I could walk.
Wow.
So I was then moved to a different hospital to do rehabilitation.
Okay.
So I was doing physiotherapy there like 2 or 3 times a day in various different ways. So for example, just walking up and down the ward, climbing up and down stairs, doing various kinds of squatting exercises to get the strength in my legs up and things like that. And then I was discharged on May the 13th and went home.
And then after that, how long did it take you to have an almost full recovery?
Well, I wasn't fully recovered at that point. I was maybe about 75% recovered. I could walk with crutches or a frame, but I wasn't mobile in any true sense, I guess.
Which is also quite a relief, because at one time you were told that you could be paralyzed, but now you're able to at least stand to walk. That's a huge relief. And then once you see that's okay, you start seeing the light and the tunnel. Say, okay, now I can maybe, get back to normal. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that was initially the talk that because in China, if you like, during the worst days, it was you're going to die, and at best, you're going to be paralyzed for the rest of your life.
That's what I
Yeah,
told you. That. Wow.
yeah, yeah, they did.
Pretty awful hearing that.
It was, but as I say, it was the main thing that and I do firmly believe that this is the reason why I'm here talking to you today, and not 6 feet under, as I kept saying to myself. You have got to stay as composed as you can.
Oh yeah.
Because once, as I say, once you lose it, then God knows what's going to happen next. Was the main thing.
So now, and then you've been ongoing. You've been doing ongoing treatments, and now would you say you're 100% recovered now? 90%?
Like 99%.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Do you still have to go to the hospital or take some medicines or do checkups?
There's I had 2 rounds of treatment in the in this hospital later in 2016 and again in 2017 to treat the MS. It's very clever what they did, but there's a bit more before that happens though. So as I was saying, I got discharged on May the 13th, go home, and my head was a mess at that time. Because I could not believe what had happened, that in such a short space of time, like my world had collapsed all around me. I'd lost all my money that I had at the time. I'd lost a job that I really liked. Lots of things got left behind, and it was very scary. And even at a time, given what happened, like the first initial weeks after I got home, I was even scared to just go outside.
So in your darkest moments, what allowed you to keep going and not just give up? Because it was pretty easy to give up. You could not do anything. You were away from home, running out of money, the school giving you a hard time and all that. It was pretty easy to give up. But what kept you going? Where did you find the strength to keep pushing, and overcoming this?
The support of my friends in Guangzhou at the time certainly were a big source of support, and without them, I don't think I would have been able to make it back in the way I did. So, like, their contribution definitely cannot be understated in that regard. And I don't know. I suppose it was literally. I never understood this before, but I've seen interviews with people in various kinds of situations where they were convinced they were going to die or their life was in imminent danger, and then it gets to a point where, if you like, it's time to face the music, and you, in a sense, not scared of what comes next, I suppose. So I kind of reached that point, I guess, whereas I was beyond terrified, yes, but by the same time I was thinking, I'm going to do everything I can to get out of here, because in one sense, in the short term, I guess I wasn't really scared of the consequences as such at that time, if that makes sense. It's hard to describe exactly what it was, but it's just kind of, you get it all amped up within you to do that last charge, as it were, and just give it everything you've got. And that was, I guess, very much the spirit that took over me, because again, quite a lot of people said to me things like, even when I was just flying home from Hong Kong to Manchester, that you're very lucky that nothing happened on the plane health-wise. But at the time, that was not even in my equation at all. It's not something I'd even considered or thought about remotely. It's just, I am getting home, and that is it. I don't care how I get home, but I am getting home, whatever it takes. And it was only afterwards I thought, yeah, they were probably right. But when you're in that survival mode of thinking, as I say, you don't think normally, I suppose, is the best way I can put it.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and I see life as a school to learn lessons. What would you say were the lessons that this incredibly challenging, period of your life taught you? What did you learn from that as far as lessons? or what maybe that opened your eyes to what's really important and to reprioritize some of your things in your life? What did you learn about that?
I would say that the main thing I learned, although it definitely didn't feel like this at the time,
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah.
was but retrospectively looking back, as I realized, even when you're paralyzed from the waist down and trapped in a scary hospital in China, even when you run out of money and they're saying they're not going to treat you, and even that if it persists that they're going to basically throw you on the street, even when you're getting all these threats from your employer about basically stopping you from leaving the country,
Yeah.
even when you're told you could be paralyzed for the rest of your life or even die, it's really not as bad as you think. It really isn't. That's because I think as people we have a very unfortunate habit of overestimating how bad things can get, and the reality very rarely is as bad as that at all, I found. And as I say there, yes, it's the worst experience of my life,
Sure.
but but it was finite, I suppose is the best way I can put it. And I guess I learned the importance of, no matter what kind of hell you're going through, keep going,
So I
because you don't
guess
want because you don't want to stay in hell. You want to get out of hell, and the only way you'll get out is to keep going.
going through that and overcoming that, absolutely, as you said, a hellish experience. Now realizing that it doesn't matter. I'm running out of money. I'm almost paralyzed with a facing probably being paralyzed for life. Despite all of that, I overcame this, and it's not that bad. So that must make you feel probably almost unstoppable, invincible, looking forward, going, attacking any challenge in front of us. That's going to be a piece of cake. This is how you
It,
feel now, moving forward.
it, yeah, in pretty much every domain, when I've been in a setting that would normally be very stressful, so things like, say, a job interview or giving a presentation, even doing this interview, um, uh, I've got a sense of perspective now that will get me through, I think, virtually anything else that life has to offer me now, I suppose, is the main thing. Because of course, I think back, was it as bad as that? No, you got through it, so you can get through this.
Exactly.
Is the main line of thinking I have now. And that even if it doesn't go well or goes wrong in some way, you'll be able to bounce back from it, no
Oh,
problem,
yeah.
was, I think,
Oh,
the lasting effect from all of this. But in some ways I needed that spirit more after I came home, because it was during Euro 2016 in I think that was in France, wasn't it? I mean, yeah, I thought it was in France. I was watching that, and my left hand started to feel clumsy, I suppose is the best way I can put it.
wow.
Like, I couldn't move it properly. I couldn't like hold stuff either.
Wow.
So for example, if I was holding a cup, I'd like probably drop it or something like that. It was very weird. So then we called the hospital back, and then they re-examined me, and then they said, yeah, this is MS. It's happened again. But with perhaps I should explain a bit more about MS for perhaps the benefit of people that don't know much about the condition. It's a neurological disease that affects your brain and spinal cord, and for
What is it
some
called?
reason, sorry,
What is it called?
oh, sorry, multiple sclerosis.
Oh, okay. That's what you have. Okay.
Yeah, usually abbreviated to MS in most English-speaking countries. Um, so it's a neurological disease where, for some reason that they've not been able to figure out yet, your immune system one day decides that the um, like nerve coatings of your brain and spinal cord are a disease and attacks them. And when that happens, it can cause almost any symptom. So the
What
first
caused
one I
it?
had was paralysis from the waist down.
What caused it? Was it something genetic, or was it something that's a chain reaction in your body? Were they able to tell you how this happened? Do you have
They
any
don't
idea of that in the
they
family? No.
they don't know why it happens, and there's no family history of this condition either.
Wow, that's crazy. So
Yeah.
now, looking forward, now you look. Thank God, you look. You look awesome, fabulous, ready to kicking ass and all that. Did the doctor tell you if there is a likelihood of this reappearing in the future, or it's completely behind you now?
He did say that for a minority of people that have had the treatment that I've had, which I suppose is something we'll come on to later, it does come back, but for a majority, it doesn't, and it stays subdued. And he said for people that had the treatment early into the disease course, like I did, it's more likely that it will remain that way. I mean, my last diagnosed relapse was in, I think, September 2016. And
How,
since then, I've had no new progression of
how
the
severe was
disease.
that? How severe was that?
Before I had treatment, so basically from May to November 2016, things in a sense didn't get any easier at all, because my left arm, when, as I say, I had like no strength in it, I couldn't lift stuff, couldn't really move it either, needed help with lots of things. I mean, I was right-handed, so it wasn't that invasive in some ways, but obviously it still wasn't helpful at all. And then I had other symptoms like very severe vertigo, where basically I'd be sick if I wasn't lying down, and this was the case for about 2 months. It
Wow.
was really horrible.
Wow.
I at one point like lost feeling in like the left side of my face. I couldn't taste food very much at all. Like I barely taste anything.
Wow.
Like I'd lost most of my mobility again, so virtually confined to bed, and also like my eyesight in this eye started to go, and in this one I had I don't know what the condition's called, but basically my parents said that I'd be looking at them and then my eye would sort of go kind of all over the place. They did say it did look quite funny when it did happen, but obviously, you know, I suppose that was the only remotely comical aspect of that, was that for them. But obviously I was in a very bad way, and my neurologist called me in and he said, because I had initially been prescribed a drug which was good, but I had another attack in September, which was the most severe one since China, where in effect I was paralyzed again from the waist down. So they brought me into hospital, gave me the steroids. Then he called me back in after I'd had the initial recovery. And at this stage, you know, I was just thinking, there's no light at the end, or I was almost at the point where there was no more light at the end of the tunnel. And you start thinking, well, if this is what my life's going to be like for the rest of my life, then is this a life that I want to live? And that question was getting harder and harder to say yes to as time was going on. You know, and I was in the depths of despair in many ways, until October, when my neurologist in essence said, we need to treat this very aggressively now, because if we don't, you are going to be in a very bad way in just a few years. Because he said what he was seeing in me would normally happen over, say, a period of about 20, 30 years. But in this case, it had happened in about, well, March to October, 7 months. It's one of the most aggressive cases he'd ever seen. So he said, we need to hit this hard right now. Yes, this treatment is risky, but if we don't do it, things will get so much worse very, very fast. So they prescribed me this drug, which I had via intravenous in the hospital, which strangely wasn't designed to treat MS at all. It was originally designed to treat various types of leukemia. And they found out by accident that it was very effective in treating MS.
Wow.
So they gave me that.
Let me ask a question. Are you
Yep.
a religious or spiritual person?
Sorry?
Are you religious or spiritual?
I go back and forth.
Okay. So did you in your darkest of times, especially when you said when the relapse, did you get into praying, or maybe you reading the holy books or anything in a way to give you some kind of strength?
No, nothing. No, nothing like that at the time.
Okay. Did
No.
you pray at times, or?
No, I just felt mostly helpless at the time.
Let's talk about something a little bit less, a little bit lighter. When you were younger, before this, were you active as far as athletics and sports, anything like that?
I was at various times, yeah. Like I'm a British kid, so of course played football a lot.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I did taekwondo, swimming,
Wow.
played rugby a bit in high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, are you able to play the sports now again, or maybe at a lighter dose, or you're not doing any sports and activities, or even at
Um,
least running or anything? Are you doing any activities?
um, I could do all of those things. I mean, it's a bit difficult right now because of lockdown,
Sure, sure,
because
sure.
of
Yeah.
course all that stuff is pretty much cancelled.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could do those things now.
So, and the doctors told you there's no risk for you, maybe not playing rugby because rugby is a different story. But let's say like football or running or tennis or anything like that, you're able to do that?
Yeah, that wouldn't really be a problem with that, I don't think.
Okay. Wow. Cool. Okay. Wow. What a story. What a story. That's leaves speechless. Let me ask you something a bit, move on to a bit lighter topic. So
Sure.
when you, John, when you were a young kid growing up, when we grow up, everybody asks us, family, friends, so what do you want to do and become when you grow up?
Yeah.
What did you want? What did the John that you were, let's say as a kid, what was your dream growing up? What did you want to do? Was it football player?
Oh, well, like most kids, this probably changed every day at one point. At first, I think, because when I was very little, I really loved trains. So I think I wanted to be
Wow.
a train conductor.
Wow.
At first, then, pretty much every boy at some point wants to be a footballer. That's pretty much a given across the board with most kids here. Then, I had one idea at one point to be a SWAT officer or something like that. Like one of the SWAT
What?
team with,
SWAT.
SWAT. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Dealing with very intense situations with guns and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Also went through a phase where I wanted to be a pro wrestler as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Is-
And then then I got interested in politics and maybe do something related to that.
I think that could be part of your calling later on. We're gonna talk about it in a moment. We just want to talk about this light topic right now. Okay,
Yeah.
so nice. Okay. So yeah, as I said, so you wanted to do that, and when you were in high school, did you still want to be one of those, or did you have a different plan and idea for your future, or before
It's
getting into uni, for example?
it's hard to remember in some ways because of course I had various different kinds of plans, but all of them were quite fluid and weren't really solid. I think it's like that for most people growing up. I don't think many people know from especially a young age exactly what they want to do when they're older. I originally didn't plan to go to university at all, and I was never initially I wasn't a high achiever in school, but then when I was in the latter stages of in the UK we call them A levels. Those would be like senior high school in
Okay.
maybe places like US.
That's fine.
Like I guess I finally started to get it in school and started to get basically barely passing most things to getting like very, very good scores. So then I thought, okay, yeah, university, going down an academic route would be more appropriate at this stage. So then I was, at that time just working very hard to get the best grades I could to go to university.
Nice, nice,
Yeah.
nice. Cool. When growing up, did you have what was your role model, or maybe your I wouldn't use the word idol, but your maybe mentor or role model? Did you have any?
Again, to some extent, that changed over time, I guess. I mean, to some extent, your immediate family, I think, always play a role like that
Sure.
for most people. During my younger years, I suppose it was certain teachers that always looked out for me. And I guess even when I wasn't doing well academically, I guess always believed in me. And ultimately, I think it was that belief they had in me that ultimately helped me turn my education around. I mean, I was never like the bad kid in school. I was always well behaved and stuff like that, but I just wasn't doing well academically. And then I suppose that belief that they had in me transposed into me, and I was able to get good results in the end.
What was your favorite topic in school?
History. I was always a big fan of history.
Any specific area
Studied
of
it.
history?
Sorry.
Any specific part of history?
I quite enjoyed Russian history. I did the last three czars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then or it might have been the last two. I can't remember exactly what it was now. I remember that being particularly interesting. Did a lot about the Nazis as well.
Oh, wow.
That was particularly enjoyable. And a few other various periods of history within Europe and across the world.
Mhm. Okay.
Did some French history as well. Did Louis XIV as well in my last year of
Okay.
high school. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about now. You said you went through an incredible at the time, which was horrible, but now in retrospect, you use
Yeah.
that as an incredible source of strength moving forward. And you mentioned that you add some kind of, this desire to get into politics. Well, are you looking to maybe not get into politics, but use your experience and become, as I told you when we met last year in Hong Kong, maybe you can be, that would be an amazing experience for you to share, because you're not the only person, that went through that. And and I'm sure when you went through that, you wished there was someone that you can talk to that had gone through that, to guide you, to help you morally and all that. Do you plan on playing that kind of role for other people moving forward, or that's something that, what's your thought on that?
You were pretty much the first person that ever steered me towards that route, I guess. I mean, don't get me wrong, like people that know about it, they can't really comprehend it in some ways, but
Sure.
they said that, that's like, I'm so happy that you were able to turn that around and recover. But then it just kind of stayed there. You were pretty much the first person that said that. And I think at the time, yeah, and I suppose for anyone that's watching this right now, perhaps who's just been diagnosed with MS or knows someone that has, the very first stages of your diagnosis are the worst part, because you feel completely helpless and scared, especially with how aggressive mine was at the time. And everyone did say it would get better from there, which it did in my case, but it didn't feel like that at the time. But I did think, yeah, that if I had someone then, that would have really helped me a lot, because I was in a very dark place for quite a long time then.
Was there some kind of support program, maybe organization or a forum for people to go and reach out and share the stories and get some kind of support, or does offer none of that?
There are several MS specific charities within the UK. Like the main ones is there's one called the MS Trust and the others called the MS Society, which I think has different versions all across the world. Like I forget if it's either a standalone organization in the UK or if it's the UK branch of a global organization. I'm not too sure about that, but those are, I suppose, the main ones that come to mind. Oh, also I suppose a more local one would be the Brain Charity. So they help people who have any kind of neurological condition
So are
get help with various things.
you considering getting into that and becoming like a voice, like a leader in that movement? Is that something that you're considering, or I'm not sure, or not at all?
Yeah, it was something I thought about. I mean, I am, because as I say, you were the first person that ever implanted that idea into my head, I guess. So I suppose there was initial thoughts about how to go about doing that, but also I'm more a reserved person in some ways. And I kind of prefer to be more low key, but by the same token, as you say, this has the capacity to be very helpful. And if it helps even just one person, then I've done a great thing. So there's definitely that line of thinking too. So
Because as I told you, everything happens for a reason, to teach us lessons. And not only you learn a tremendous lesson to that, but also that is a beautiful lesson that needs to be shared with other people like you. And it would be like a godsend to them. I'm sure it would have been a godsend for you if you had known, say, John number two, to help you, to guide you, to coach you. So yeah, I believe that there's tremendous opportunity to do good and do that. So if you're open to do that, what kind of role do you want to play uh, to help people in that?
It's a
Or,
tough
or
it's a
in
tough
what way,
question.
or in what way do you want to get involved into that basically? At what level, what stage, or what way?
Um, I suppose over time, I would be able to figure out through to some extent trial and error exactly what the best medium for that would be. But I suppose in the main, because this is what I would have really liked, is almost like a voice to reassure people, especially when they first get diagnosed with the disease, that there is in most cases light at the end of the tunnel,
Sure.
and that you can get through this.
Mhm.
um, because again, everyone that gets diagnosed with this condition, it's tragic in their own right, don't get me wrong, but the circumstances around mine were especially challenging.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
And if I had, I suppose, like an authority figure who'd been through something similar to assure me that everything would be okay in the end, that would have been really helpful. I mean, ultimately I did get through it, but it was a lot harder than perhaps it could have been if that source hadn't been there.
Absolutely. And for example, one way that if I can modestly suggest would be maybe start obviously either write a book or even easier than that, maybe start a podcast and just talk about that. For example, what it is like to get diagnosed with that. What are the first symptoms? Keep it short on the 5 minute. Just share your experience. Talk from the heart. You know exactly what went through. Just share what you went through. Keep them short, 5-10 minutes. Just like a how to guide, what to do, how that happens, how do you feel, and even if you said there are other communities and maybe forums, maybe reach out to them, bring them
Mm,
on as guests. I think that could really become really big because there's tremendous need. There's a major vacuum right now. There's no one, and again, I'm not saying do that for business or financial reason. That could be you know a secondary effect of that later on, but you're doing it first because you want to share the experience and bring the support that you badly needed but that was not there. I mean, I can see that. For example, you can eventually, once it becomes big, you can get to do speeches at universities, at
mm,
hospitals and places like that, and eventually you will be on TV and even write a book. So I can see, again, I'm not looking that from a financial or career path, but I'm looking more as a humanitarian thing. But
yeah,
again, because you're doing good, all of that will be secondary. There will be natural outcomes of that. So I think there would be, again, I can't it's one, I can't say if I was me, because I wouldn't wish that to anyone. But if I had to be experiencing that, this is what I would do. And I think there is tremendous opportunity for you. Just keep it simple. Don't get bogged down by all the technological details of, hey, I need a podcast, I need an editor and all that. No, just like
yeah,
me, just get a video, short videos on YouTube, 5-10 minutes. Well, this is going
mm,
to be more than 5 minutes. It's been almost an hour
yeah,
now.
yeah,
But because you have such a tremendous story. But maybe just keep them short, like how to's, daily, or maybe even start a Facebook group. Just go live 5 minutes each day, just
mm,
one topic. If you want, there's resources on the internet. And I think it's askthepublic.com. You
mm.
just ask any keyword. Have you heard of that? And it tells you what people are
Um,
searching.
I think, yeah, I have come across that
So
before,
you do that, for
but
example, just
yeah,
do a Google search, see what people are asking and searching on Google. Just
mm,
one keyword, and you can do a short video on that every day. Or
mm,
even you don't even need that because you went to that. You know what a person has gone through that. So, for example, what is multiple sclerosis? How do you get? How does it affect you first? Just 5 minutes each video. You can do one video a week or one video a day.
yeah,
Build a Facebook community, build a podcast, and I'm pretty do that consistently within 2-3 months. You will get some big exposure because this is a big concern, big issue. And honestly, do that for 6 months to a year. You will get speaking engagement from universities and even from big organizations. I mean, you have Yes, it was horrible when you're going through it, but I look at that as a blessing, because the lesson you learn from that,
Yeah.
it gives you a message to share, to experience, and that's what the world needs. And you're, I think, I see you as the leader, as the voice to really bring hope to. I don't know how many people are suffering from that in the world, but a lot of people that need that. So I see it from that perspective.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I thought of a variety of ways I could do it. I'm thinking now that perhaps one of the most productive ways would be to reach out to the main organizations, because they're already considered a source of authority. I mean, just with Facebook groups, I have joined other MS related Facebook groups in the past, and I've just found them to be very negatively toned places in the main.
Opportunity for you to get one that is more
Yeah,
positive.
yeah. Well, again, that's what I was thinking. Is like there's
Mhm.
definitely, and that's generally why I left all of them, was
Yeah.
because like every time you go in them, it's and don't me wrong, like I'm not, you know, dismissing the
It's a
things that
local
the
thing.
people are saying, but it's unrelenting if you stay within that frame of thought, I guess. And at the end of the day, no matter how positive you are, no matter how upbeat you are, if you're constantly exposed to
Sure, absolutely.
very severe negativity, it is going to get you down.
Sure.
Um,
Just start with short videos, 2, 3, 5 minutes, just talking
yeah,
about how, just explaining what it is,
yeah,
how does it affect you, what you went through, maybe your story. Don't even reach out to them at first, these negative people. Just put constant content, and eventually people will find you, and then you
mhm,
can go to these communities and ask people, hey, I would love to bring you on as a guest on my podcast to share your story and just talk and give hope and give tips to other people. And I don't think many people would turn that down.
yeah, yeah. Well, thanks very much for the suggestion. Yeah, and I think that that would be a much better way to go about it
Sure.
than what's currently out there, I guess. Because, as I say,
Exactly.
particularly for the first stages of it as well, because although your symptoms can vary in severity and frequency, because no two MS patients are the same. Like I've had a wide variety of symptoms that other people have never had with it, and they've had issues that I've never had, because it's a brain and spinal cord disease. It can cause virtually any symptom you can think of.
Yeah.
Um, but as I say, that I suppose journey in some way is quite similar for all of us. And I remember, I mean, I never believed him at the time, but my neurologist, particularly once we were on the pathway to having this stronger treatment, said that, 2, 3, 4 years down the road, MS will be an afterthought, and it's, not going to be like a significant part of your life anymore. And at the time, I didn't believe him at all. But I said, oh, actually, no, he was right. He was right. So
Good. Hear that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
and I suppose just just to share that to people as well. And I suppose the other thing as well is because I mean, I don't know how correct the doctors in China were when they in essence said if you don't get treated you're going to die. I don't know how true that was, but assuming that was the case, which I have thought at times, it's more when I mean, I just turned 29 a few weeks ago, but when you're around this age, you don't think about dying or getting
oh
sick or
awesome.
anything like that, because it's like that's very far away. It's never going to happen to
So
you.
you were
Don't worry about it.
25 when
But
you first got this, or 25, 26?
24,
Oh wow.
yeah,
Incredible. That's
yeah,
very
24 when it started. But now it's kind of
oh
like, because I had such a dangerous brush where I got, if you like, uncomfortably too close to death. Because obviously, if the hospital had kicked me out, or if, I mean, I'm not saying that this was definitely going to happen, but it was realistic that my employer at the time could have, in effect, kidnapped me to stop me from leaving China. And, both of those things would have either left me in a much worse situation than I am now, or dead. And when you go through that, I guess you realize that you really appreciate life a lot more,
oh
and
yeah.
also appreciate the need to make the most of every moment that you have, because just don't know what's around the corner, when things can change and when it could all end.
So yeah, beautiful. It must have been an incredible, not only learning lesson, but also a wake-up call to really appreciate life and make the most of it. So looking
Very
for,
much so.
what are you, what are your goals and plans moving forward? What are you planning to get? I mean, do you have any business in mind that you want to start or anything? So
Well, I think for now, going down that route of going down various avenues in terms of making some noise in the MS space and telling people about my story, I suppose, is the immediate goal that's on the horizon right now. Yeah. And then, I mean, obviously, I'll find a more precise way to do this in a way that maximizes the effectiveness of telling the story, but in a way that, I suppose, how can I put this? In a way that, you know, I can do the best, I suppose, is the best way I can put it.
wow, wow, yeah, I think you know, we all have a purpose, we all have a mission, and I think your mission here is to bring hope to the people that are suffering from this horrible disease.
Yeah, because I was this close.
Oh yeah.
Literally before I had treatment to, you know, because as I say, I was, you know, just thinking to himself at the time that, you know, if it's things were already terrible, like beyond any, you know, previous comprehension I had at the time, and if things can only get worse from here, then what's the point?
Exactly. Wow.
You know?
What a journey. What a journey. I guess, as I said, you've been blessed in a way because you get to experience through an incredibly challenging time, and that has made you so much more not only aware but also much more stronger, more better equipped to face, and wiser to face what's going to happen now, what's in front of you, I mean. And it also showed you, hey, maybe, you know, I read a quote a long time, not long ago, that said the two most important dates in a person's life are, first, when you're born, and
Yeah.
second, when you find out why you're here. And I guess that could be, did you ever feel that, hey, okay. Yeah, so I was saying, so yeah, it's, as I said, the two most important dates in our lives: the first, when we are born, and second, when we find out why we are here. Did you at any time felt that, hey, now I find some kind of a calling, some kind of an, I know why I'm here? Did you ever feel like that now, especially now after talking, that, hey, this could be your mission moving forward, to bring more awareness and to bring hope to people that are suffering from that?
I suppose initially, once I recovered from the treatment, because don't get me wrong, the treatment was very aggressive and very rough. Because in essence, what it did is it, the way it was described to me in patient-friendly terms was that your immune system's going to be reset to like make it forget that it has MS, I suppose was the best way. Yeah, because what they did is they killed off certain parts of it. And then what they found is that when those parts come back, they don't exhibit MS traits anymore. Like they no longer attack your brain and spinal cord. But as I say, the first year only did about 65% of the job, and then you have the second dose a year later. And then after that, once I'd recovered from the second round of treatments and got myself a job, after so long on the sidelines, my initial thought was more just, you know, you've recovered from a horrible experience. Just live life now, I suppose. Like, because you're on, like, I guess more of a normal trajectory at that stage. Just live out life, and you know you'll be more than capable of taking each thing as it comes. And it was only really when you planted that initial seed in my head is when I thought more, yeah, maybe that is the reason why I'm here now, and maybe that is the best and most fulfilling thing that I can do. So
Yeah, one thing I read about people that came very close to dying but survived, whether it's accident or illness, they get a sense of now not only appreciating life much more, but also to be much more driven. much more, when they get into something, they give it all and then they will succeed, whether it's in a professional career, a business, or whatever. Do you feel the same now when you get to, whether it's your job that you're outperforming others, you're more focused, more driven, even in your business and your personal life? Do you feel that as well? That hey, now I have to stop fooling around and just get the things done. Do you feel extra motivated, extra driven now?
I would say it's more that it didn't so much go down that route, but more it doubled up in terms of appreciation for life in general, is what I would say. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I have bad days, like we all
Yeah,
have
of
do,
course.
especially in 2020.
Oh yeah.
Of all years. But in the main, I'd say that was more the lasting effect. And one of the best things was 6 months after the first round of treatment. So this would have been May 2017. I'd saw my neurologist, and things had been so hopeless and terrible beforehand. And it was just so beautiful to be able to show him that, not only had I physically recovered at that point to a great extent, but mentally, I was in a much better place. And just to thank him so much for giving me the means to be able to get there. And even last year in Hong Kong, because one of the people that I met with when I was there was Harrison Bevans, who I think you know as well. He was one of the people that I would meet up with back in my EC days, and he was someone that visited me in the hospital. And he saw like me at my very, very worst state, and he hadn't seen me since then. That, if you like, was in fact the last time I saw him. I remember was he took me down in my wheelchair to the Uber taxi, and then got out of that and into the taxi. That was the last time I saw him.
Wow.
And then to show him that by that stage I'd basically fully recovered was it wanted to show him, and if the others were around, I would have showed them as well too, of course, that that what they did. I mean, obviously I don't know how difficult it was for them at the time. You'd need to ask them that, but whatever they did paid absolute dividends for me. And if it wasn't for them, then, as I say, I may not be having this conversation with you now.
Sure.
And that was, and not just them, but also there was old students of mine that I saw in Hong Kong too. And again, the last time they saw me was in the hospital. And again, to show them that, look, I'm better, which was at the time pretty much inconceivable, considering just how bad things were, was felt very heartwarming, I guess.
Oh, more than that, I would say quite emotional for someone that saw you in a wheelchair.
I was just trying to find the best way to express it.
Is that you? Wow. Oh yeah.
Pretty much.
Oh,
yeah.
You mentioned something that even the reaction of your neurologist, going from he saw you at your worst, I mean, even worse than worst. And then when you were back standing in front of him as a normal human being, walking, able to use your hands, your feet, you must have felt pretty damn good too.
Yeah, I hadn't fully recovered at that stage. I was still halfway through the treatment, but I was like noticeably much better than the last time. But yeah, you could tell immediately that things had really turned around. And again, that was an emotional day. Yeah, no doubt about that.
Speaking of him, your neurologist, that would be an obvious person to bring as one of the first guests on your podcast.
Yeah,
I'm sure he would be open to that, just to share experience and just talk generally about his experience and what it's like to treat that kind of horrible disease. I mean, that would be an amazing person, an obvious person to bring. Yeah.
Yeah. If he has time, because my impression is that not just him, but all of the other neurologists there, were working a great deal, not just at the hospital I was at, but a wide variety of other hospitals. But it'd be more as secretary I would need to speak to. But yeah, be
just
very
for 30 minutes.
cool.
I'm sure you can just do a Zoom call with him like that, and short, have some good questions, and it would be more than happy because you're one of his, I don't know about this experience, you're probably one of his most amazing success stories, I would say. So it would be, yeah. And it was absolutely amazing. We can talk for hours and hours.
Yeah.
And even talk about
we could do
anything, but yeah. So let me see if there's anything else here. No, I guess that's pretty much it. Absolutely amazing. Amazing talking to you as usual, as always. I'm looking forward to when things reopen to visit the UK. And one of my dreams is to go to Anfield, and I'll definitely go with you, watch a good game.
Yep.
Next
Yeah,
year.
we can definitely arrange that. And who knows, maybe the fates will collide and we'll end up playing Milan or something like that.
Next
you never
year,
know.
Probably going to be back in the Champions League finally after what, almost a decade of being away, which is
yeah. Actually, come to think of it, I can't remember the last time you guys were in the Champions League.
2014, and we got eliminated in the quarterfinals. No, in the second round, I think, by, of all people, Tottenham. You know, the Spurs. We drew 0-0 in London, and we did 1-1 at San Siro, or maybe they won 1-0 at San Siro with a full goal. Zlatan almost got in a fight with that was the first version of Zlatan when he was younger.
Oh, yeah.
He got almost in a fight with a Spurs defender, but whatever. Anyways, looking forward to that. So keep.
Yeah, we'll definitely make that happen. There's no doubt about that.
Keep rocking. That's one of my goals and dreams now to visit you again, see it in London, in the UK. I mean, and Liverpool. But also one of my dreams is to go to Anfield, and even more so a diehard fan and friend like you. But I will be cheering for Liverpool except in one game. Don't ask me to cheer for Liverpool, especially if we play against Milan, okay? Other than that, I'll be cheering for you guys. So I'm cheering for you as a friend, as a human being. You're absolutely doing amazing things. You've gone, again, I look at it as you've been blessed with an amazing experience and message, very powerful message to share to the world. And I think I fully believe that you're the right person to bring that to the world. So keep me posted on that. If you need any help with that or anything, I'd be more than happy to do so. And yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, my friend, and we'll keep in touch. Oh, and if someone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to do so?
Oh, let me think. I always check my emails regularly, so probably email would be the best platform for that. Or I'm active on most forms of social media, mainly WeChat. Although I appreciate that's not commonly used outside of China, but I never got away from that. Sorry?
How about Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, but I don't tend to use it that much these days. And also people complain that whenever they try to search for me, there's like 1 million people with my name. So it was very, very, very difficult to.
The only way I was able to find you when I was searching on Facebook was because you're wearing your Liverpool jersey. That's all I would say. That's him.
Okay.
That's how because
I know the picture you mean. Yeah, that was during the screening of the Champions League final when we beat Tottenham.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, trying to think. Cause,
no, you're right.
Trying to think of the best way. Facebook probably wouldn't be, because it'd probably be difficult to find me on there. So
I can just put a link directly to your Facebook. So this would be, just click on that in the show notes, and they will go straight to you to.
Yeah, or maybe Instagram, because at the end of the day, because although I'm not active on Instagram, I message a lot of people on there. So let me find it. I'll just send it to you after this, and then you can put it in the description.
All right, sounds good, John.
Yeah.
Once again, a pleasure, immense pleasure talking to you. Have a great one, and talk to you later. Cheers, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to do this. And yeah, Merry Christmas to you too.
Thank you, absolutely. Pleasure. Cheers.
Thanks.